All right, so welcome to 1-7, the last of our notes for this unit. Our central question, how do you determine the solutions to an absolute value inequality? This is very similar to the last lesson in that the same rules apply for less than or equal to. So recall that absolute value, it's the little bars, and really what it does is it takes a negative and it thinks of it as a positive. So a -6 absolute value, your answer becomes +6 because absolute value is the distance from 0. Okay, so if you are walking from, so say we have a number line, the reason it's called absolute value, okay, if you're walking from -6 to 0, you moved 6 units, positive. Okay? If you walk backwards again to -6, you again moved 6 more units. So absolute value always takes a negative and makes it positive. It keeps the same for positives. Okay? It's mainly about the negatives. Okay, a wrestler in a weight class of 150, they're allowed to compete if they're within 2 pounds. You guys see tolerances like this all the time, so this is what we call tolerance. Okay, and basically if they're within 2 pounds, you would say, well, yeah, they're good to go if they're 148, 149, anywhere in between these, 150, 151, 152, okay? We'll be talking about these with the word problems later. But solving absolute values, this is where it all is. And negatives, those rules apply for inequalities. Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, steps. All right, rewrite as 2 equations. This is the biggest thing. And we're going to keep one the same and flip switch the other. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this is for inequalities. So we'll get to that in a bit. But let's start off nice and easy here. Solving 5x minus 10 is equal to 45. We're going to keep one exactly the same. So what do I mean by this keep one exactly the same? Anytime you see an absolute value, anytime you see one, and this is what students forget to do, when you see this absolute value, you need to split into 2 problems. Absolute value, I want you to take these signs and I want you to make them into 2 problems. All right, make them into 2 problems. One side you keep exactly the same. 5x minus 10, 45. Equals 45. The other side, you're going to keep everything in the absolute value signs the same, but we're going to switch to -45. Absolute value, what's inside those always stays the same. What you're changing is either to positive, negative, negatives to positive. From there, once you do all that, the hard work's done. That's your hard work to remember. Okay? From there, it's just solving regular equations. Plus 10, 55 is equal to 5x, and x is equal to 11. Plus 10, -35 is equal to 5x, and x is equal to -7. Okay, the last little thing is we need to do something called check for extraneous solutions. And your check means that you're going to substitute each of these values into the original statement. So we're going to take the absolute value of 5 times 11 minus 10 equals 45. So notice, I just substituted my 11 right back in for x. And sometimes, the reason we have to check, sometimes you get answers that aren't actually true. But for us, absolute value of 55 minus 10 equals 45. We have the absolute value of 45, 45, and that one works out. Same thing here, and here's what happens. So 5 times negative 7. It doesn't look like it will work off the bat. But notice, since we have the absolute value, of a negative becomes positive, and they both work out. So both of those are good answers. If you get to one that doesn't work, say you do get negative 45, then it will be extraneous, okay? Solving this one here, again, I'll leave it to you guys, but you need to remember, when you have absolute values, you need to split into two problems. Take them and split it into two. Now you have 4x over here. You're still going to switch. You're still going to keep everything inside the same. All right, so your two problems, 2x plus 12, is equal to 4x, and 2x plus 12 is equal to negative 4x. And I'll let you finish that one. Okay, lastly here, solve 4x plus 5 is greater than 13. Here's where it gets a little trickier because of an inequality, but really it's not much different. Again, you see absolute value, you're thinking I need to split it into two problems. Absolute value, take it into two problems. Now for inequalities, you need to do a flip and a switch. Flip switch. Okay, it's like a skateboard trick. One, you keep exactly the same. Keep 4x plus 5 is greater than 13. Would you say I kept it the same? Yes. Over here, 4x plus 5, we're going to flip the sign. Here's the flip. And switch to negative. There's the switch. Or vice versa, whichever one you want to think of. And from there, there's the hard work. You take care of it. Then you just solve carefully the problem at hand. 5 to 13, that would be, oh my goodness, 8. Less than 4x. Divided by 4. Greater than 2. And subtract 5. Subtract 5. Now we're going the other direction. Let's see here. Negative 18. Less than 4x. Don't let negatives and don't let fractions scare you, for sure. And x is less than negative 9 halves, 4.5. Okay? Again, these two things you would essentially check, but that is all you need to do. Now, if you end up dividing by a negative, all those rules apply, but we did not do that in either case, so that's what we are left with. Now again, for example 4, when you see absolute values, you need to take them and create your two problems. This one, though, has a little bit extra work. Extra in that first, you want to get the absolute values by themselves. So let's isolate the absolute values. To do that, okay, notice this 2 is outside the absolute value. It's hanging out outside here. All right, well, if it were any other case, you would say let's divide everything by 2. Let's divide everything by 2. That isolates my absolute values, leaving us with x plus 2. 12 over 2 is 6 and less than. Okay? Now you can take and split up into two problems. Okay, x plus 2 is less than 6. And x plus 2 is, we're going to flip. Boop, boop. And we're going to switch. Skidoo. Flip switch. Flip switch. Isolate. Okay, that is your hard work. And after you do all that, it should be a little easier, okay? Minus 2, you have 4 is less than x. Minus 2, negative 8 is greater than or less than x here. Okay, easy peasy stuff there. So that will set you up well for the essential question. Also, go back and actually finish E2. Give it a shot. It should not be hard. You can work on the optional assignment. And if you're really feeling a challenge, you can wait a little bit and you can go on to the application problems. So there's a little extra video dealing with the applications of tolerance. But that 12 minutes will hopefully have given you a basic idea, flipping and switching an absolute value. Remember, there are two problems. A lot of times students forget that. So 2 problems in one. They look innocent, but they're a little more than meets the eye. Awesome stuff. See you guys tomorrow in class.